when will Lyft be fully international? This, in my opinion, is actually super important, especially for next year. This is a really good comment I got by J1, and skipping to the middle part, they said Lyft is only in the United States, so people internationally don't even know what it is. So the demand for Uber is significantly higher than Lyft, pushing the prices higher. Now, that's not completely true. Lyft is available in 2 different countries, the USA, of course, and Canada, but that's it. That is a big issue. Funny side note, I actually got this email numerous times actually from Lyft saying, sorry, you referred somebody to apply to drive for Lyft, but they were in a different country, so we can't give you any referral bonus or anything, but thank you. That is pretty cool. Even though I don't get a bonus, still cool nonetheless. Here's why I wanted to do a dedicated video about this. I've done a bunch of videos about Uber versus Lyft, whether it's who pays more, who is going to be like the bigger one, like say next year, etc., etc. And over time, I have been noticing that although yes, Uber has been struggling to get more drivers on the road, when we look at Uber and Lyft, it's definitely the case that Uber is really starting to pull ahead of Lyft. And like I've mentioned in numerous videos, it does worry me a bit. I'm going to be honest. Having the monopoly over a ride-sharing industry is huge. And ride-sharing is now starting to be everywhere. As we all know, from taking our first Lyft or Uber here in America, it's kind of this weird thing. And it seemed like it wasn't going to last. Maybe it was going to be like a fad. Now, and I've mentioned this before, in a lot of hotels, they have designated rideshare pickup and drop-off areas. If you go to Vegas, for example, there are areas that are specifically created and designed just for Lyft and Uber. So Lyft and Uber is here to stay without question. And in addition, as it's spreading, I guess kind of like, is McDonald's a good example? I'm not sure, where, slowly ride sharing is going everywhere, just like fast food went everywhere all across the world. A lot of other countries now are using Uber. It's becoming a lot more common saying, hey, as opposed to getting a taxi, just order an Uber. I will say, I still think we're a little bit of ways away from Uber being completely everywhere. I mean, I mentioned this before, that earlier this year, I was in Costa Rica. I went to order an Uber, and I'm not exaggerating. When you did like the conversion, I had to go 10 minutes down the road. Not making this up. It was $1.80 for a 10-minute ride. I canceled it. I was like, you know what? Just in good conscience, I can't, have somebody get literally $1.80 or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Something around that price, just to bring me 10 minutes down the road. So I was going to plan on tipping them like $10 or something, because that would be more the actual fare, in my opinion, of what I should be paying. So I think there are a lot of countries that are still far away from using Uber, but I think especially in a lot of, popular areas like Europe and a lot of places here, obviously in the Northeast and everything, I think it is spreading a lot more where Uber's becoming so common. What worries me is as Uber gets more common internationally, as Uber, like I've mentioned, maybe like in 10 plus videos this year of all the features they're doing, whether it's Uber Explore, Uber Parking. I just did a video about Uber Sleigh. By the way, as a side note, I will be wearing this Christmas Get Buck ugly sweater that I have. Is actually my own custom Fachero ugly sweater. I'll be wearing this a lot this month because, hey, it's the holidays. But anyway, Uber's doing so much with all these different features. Again, Uber Charter, Uber Explore in terms of booking hotels or restaurants, all this kind of stuff. Uber's becoming, like I've mentioned, more of an on-demand service than just a ride-sharing service. And the big analogy I've used in a lot of videos is similar to Amazon, which started as a bookstore, but now is a pretty much online shopping plethora of pretty much anything you can want. You hit a button and boom, it's there on your doorstep, sometimes within hours, which is just so crazy to think. And as Uber gets bigger and bigger, as they're getting bigger with all the features they're adding, they're getting bigger internationally. What worries me about this is the bigger they get, could Lyft eventually fall off. And that's what I'm really worried about. Now, is going international the big make or break for Lyft? Honestly, I don't know. But if you think about it, I mean, America is just one country. That's it. And Uber has now been targeting tons of other countries. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know exactly how many. Actually, I'm gonna Google this. How many countries is Uber in? Countries is Uber in? So right now, just doing a quick Google search. Right now, at the time of this video, it's in 80 different countries. That is a lot of countries. Lyft is just in 2. And if you think about it, as Uber gets bigger and bigger, each one of those countries is a whole other market to make a lot more money, add a lot more features. I mean, like I mentioned in the Uber Sleigh video, for example, that Uber Sleigh ride is in Lapland, Finland. Lyft doesn't exist there, of course, right? And so I think as Uber gets bigger and they start to go more international and start to look at a bigger picture of how to get bigger just as a company in general, with everything they're doing when it comes to on-demand services, and in addition going more international, I'm just worried, is Lyft eventually going to just fall off? And the way it's looking, which is really interesting, based off the revenue models and the analytics, again, I've already done a video about that. I think it was like a couple months ago. And what was interesting about all the analytics is it seems like next year might be the year to see how big or small is that gap and divide between Uber and Lyft. Could Lyft maybe come back on top? I don't know. I mean, a lot of drivers, I mentioned this in my Uber versus Lyft video, when it comes to which one pays more, a lot of drivers do report a higher satisfaction driving for Lyft than driving for Uber. But it is kind of tough to say. Is that just because there's fewer drivers for Lyft? Or is it because Lyft is more of a friendlier company? If you talk to a lot of people, both passengers and drivers, I have heard state that they feel Lyft is more of the friendlier app compared to Uber, if you have to compare both of them. That when it comes to Lyft drivers, they're typically friendlier, typically happier, et cetera, et cetera. For me, though, I'm going to be honest, maybe years ago, that was the case. Because when Lyft came out, I remember a big, slogan or marketing point for them was, it's not just getting there, it's how you get there. And the idea was maximizing the riding experience, so it was a fun journey from point A to point B. This is why they really kind of pushed hard on things like candy, water, snacks, gum, mints, et cetera. Now, the difference between taking a Lyft and Uber, not that much. And in addition, most drivers drive for Lyft and Uber. And as a quick side note and quick pro tip, you should be driving for both apps. Biggest pro tip, of them all, among many, but one of the biggest ones, period. And again, that just kind of what worries me is I don't want to see Uber take over where it's only Uber and not Lyft. Now, does that mean Lyft going international is going to be like the big make or break? Honestly, I don't know. But it is unfortunate that as Uber gets bigger, as they're adding more features and now getting into more countries, like they mentioned in that comment, I didn't even think about the fact that for people not only internationally, of course, they know Uber a lot more than Lyft. Most of them have never heard of Lyft, but coming here, like say if you're visiting America, or like say you're living here for a certain period of time, you might only take Uber. You might not even think of Lyft as a potential option because you don't even know about it. Now, of course, if you move here and you're acclimated over the time, yes, you hear about Lyft. You do that thing a lot of people do, which is, okay, let's go out. Let me pull up Uber. Or let me pull up Lyft. Whichever one is cheaper, we'll just go with that option. But I don't know, it is tough to say. I think the international market has, as you can imagine, a massive potential to grow revenue, especially getting into a lot of other countries, getting more drivers on the road, employing people there. And the fact that Lyft right now is only in USA and Canada does worry me and makes me even more worried when it comes to 2023. Could there be a victor? I feel like there's a lot of things building up for next year. It is tough to say, but I think the international market is a very underrated one, but a very important one for growth, not only for Uber, but especially Lyft.